Well, guys, the shocker of the century is upon us. The GFL, something that I was personally very excited for, is no longer going to happen. They said it was postponed to their first two events, but I think we all know that the likelihood of these events ever taking place is very low. Excuse me if you can hear my notification. We're going to be talking about that today, getting a gauge on how people feel about it. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another video. If you are new here, my name is Kyle. I am your guy with many YouTube channels. Let's start off with this post over here from the Global Fight League. Unfortunately, we've been forced to postpone our May launch event. Our primary investor was unable to meet their funding commitment. We are working tirelessly to secure the necessary funding to support a successful launch. Although we anticipate this delay to be short-lived, any athlete may request an immediate release. We are committed to our mission and will continue to fight forward together. The support from our athletes, coaches, and managers during this time has been truly inspiring. Darren Owen, Commissioner. Now, of course, nobody, and I don't want to say being fooled, because there's always a possibility that somebody like Darren Owen and the people behind the GFL really want this to move forward. I just don't think it's going to happen. And they must have been giving away so much money to the point where all of these fighters being signed would not disclose the amount of money that they were getting. All we got is all of these retired people who are way beyond fighting. All we have is the money so good that they cannot say no. I can't imagine how much money they were giving away from this. And not that like anybody had to share it, of course. Like I would never expect that from a fighter, but it was obvious that, it was a little bit, I don't want to say a side project to be nice about it, but you know what I mean? Like, I don't know if caring about the fighters was ever the incentive for all of this. They had a lot of money, they were putting on some events, and I'm legitimately disappointed, dude, because the cards were great. I was so looking forward to both of them, and I thought about making a full card breakdown video for both of them early. Thank God that I didn't. I know the event and the fights weren't going to be that great. They were like a bunch of retirees, older people, sloppy fighters, but it just would have been really cool to see all of these older fighters and these great names back at it again, all of the memes coming out from it, and plus, you have all of these great fighters who could get a phenomenal payday. I was legitimately looking forward to this. I didn't expect the GFL to succeed. I didn't expect the GFL to be like a new contender in the world of MMA. I was excited for those two first events. It's not surprising to me. I was with everybody in saying like, okay, maybe this isn't going to actually like flush out the way that people want it, or the way that the people behind the Global Fight League want it to. I was just hopeful, and I wanted to see the fighters get an amazing payday. But of course, it's not just about what I think. Let's take a look at some other people and what they had to say about it. I ended up responding to the initial, I don't remember exactly what it was to, but I ended up responding to a post about GFL saying I'm actually really disappointed, but that isn't surprising. That's really, it sums up my feel about it. If you'd like to join the conversation, by the way, follow me at Clen YouTube over on X. You can find the direct link in the description down below, or the link tree at the top of the description, or you can just search up at Clen YouTube. Talk about MMA, things on all of our other channels, of course, but let's get into what everybody else had to say about this. Ariel Helwani posted this. It is possible GFL could still have an event, but honestly, they would be shocking to me at this point. Or excuse me, that would be shocking to me at this point. To me, the GFL is a story that has come and gone. There's a greater story here, the state of the MMA business. PFL isn't paying as much as they once did. The Bellator #2 brand doesn't exist. One isn't paying nearly as much for MMA fighters. GFL was that hope. This type of promotion doesn't exist, and at the end of the day, that's not good for the fighters or the business. I honestly thought that was very well said about Ariel Helwani, and I know that I'm going to get comments and backlash about this. I think we need to start appreciating the UFC a little bit more and how much they are really helping people. There are a lot of fighters who are having life-changing amount of money, just like having a few fights a year. Could it be more? Absolutely, it could be more, but it could be worse. You could be fighting for one championship. You could be fighting for the PFL. I was sad for the GFL because I liked seeing all these ideas. Like when I heard about the idea of some of my favorite fighters actually, getting into the GFL, like names like Frank Mir, Chris Weidman had an event against Luke Rockhold. Like I liked the idea of all of these guys that I was a fan of, getting that, like getting the bag, securing it, helping their families, and living as free as they possibly could be. And I know that a lot of them are already well set off, but if it's one fight that they could take for the GFL for a massive payday, and they were all incredibly happy about it, I liked seeing that for these fighters that I was a fan of over the years. Unfortunately, I do find myself agreeing with Ariel Helwani, though, and saying that the GFL is a story that has come and gone. We've seen it before. We're probably going to be seeing it again. I would be surprised to see if the GFL were to, like, actually, start up their events again. Maybe they'll get one event out, but I just do not see it being something long-term. They need to, they always needed to have their own talent anyways. I Am Saturday posted this and had this to say. Let me pause the trailer right there. Anyone who saw this GFL promotion and said to themselves, yeah, this promotion is going to be successful, needs to be institutionalized. They had an AI-generated Shogun Hua wearing armor and riding a horse, bro. The first events being canceled should not come as a surprise. Where's the Shogun Hua part? Because I actually didn't hate the AI trailers that they did. Oh my god, excuse me. Where's Shogun? Where's Shogun? Come on. Where's Shogun? We don't want to get copyrighted over there. Some of the fighters look cool. Come on, where's Shogun? There he is. There's my guy. Shogun rolling in. I thought the promotion was fun. I didn't expect it to be anything special, but I still would have liked to see them succeed, man. Korean John had this to say: feel bad for all the fighters who left or passed on other opportunities to sign with GFL. Very unfortunate. This needs to stop. Fighters do not deserve this kind of treatment. I agree with that. And hopefully nobody ended up, like, I mean, that would be a very, very stupid financial decision to make, but hopefully nobody was dumb enough to go buy a bigger house or anything like that. Because again, with the way that they were talking, it sounded like these fighters were going to get millions of dollars. But it's true. There probably were great opportunities, great events that they could have had. And now that they're stuck with the GFL and they thought that they were going to have this great thing, they're not going to have any other opportunities. We can just hope for the best for these athletes. The UFC is just the powerhouse. Why do people keep thinking another fight league will make the same rules as the UFC will ever be successful? It will never make it. The UFC is really the powerhouse, and the UFC is, I think the UFC is vastly underappreciated, especially with the hardcore community right now. The UFC still is great, and it will continue to be great, and they with the amount of money that they give out, I get it. Before you comment down below, it could be more, but I think that they are changing lives with what they're doing for their fighters over there. I like the payout for them, and I really do think that we need to compare it to other organizations out there. As to the UFC being the powerhouse, the only contender that I could see down the road one day is perhaps One Championship, but I don't even think it's ever going to overtake the UFC. I just really, really like what One Championship has been doing. Fight Oracle had this to say: this has been postponed, but we all know what that means. The GFL has no money. Feel bad for the fighters who just didn't know any better. They thought it was real. They had every right to think it was real, to be honest. There were probably great negotiations and long contracts to go along with that. But yeah, I do agree in saying we all know what postponed means. But these fights would have been fantastic, man. I was excited to see this. You know, even like the return of Paige Van Zandt. Like, that fight wouldn't have been fun, but the memes would have been golden. Dylan Dennis, the press conference would have been awesome. I'm a huge fan of Showtime Pettis. There were some really great events over here. I love watching Marlon Moraes fight. Uriah Faber and Renan Barao going back at it again, too. There was a lot of potential for the GFL, and while the odds are against it, I really, really hope that they end up getting the funding that they, said that was going to happen. They end up putting on the event. I personally would like to see that, and I would love to know what you guys think about this down below. Thank you very, very much for watching. If you want to keep watching any MMA content, then you can check out this video on screen right now. YouTube thinks that you will like this video the best. I'd love to have you guys over there. Thank you so much for being here. Take care, everybody.